Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 275, holy shit, of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is David Howe.
My name is Patrick Knisley.
My name is Summer Rain.
Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest joining us once again for today's episode. We got the wonderful Alex von Kurkendall, AVK, on the show. How's it going, AVK?
Glad to be back. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, it's really good to be here with everyone.
Very good. We have you here, AVK, because we are going to be talking all about Splatoon 3 in specifically the Grand Festival that just wrapped up. That is the end of support of the 2-year-long journey of updates for Splatoon 3. The game is, for all intents and purposes, complete now. All of the events have happened. We're going to be talking about kind of a retrospective on the game, what we think about it. We're also going to be taking a little bit of time today to talk about our dear departed friend, Ivy. We all played the Splatfest this weekend. In Ivy's honor, we all changed our splash tags to Ivy. We all were supporting and together as a unit. So we're going to be taking a little bit of time to talk about that at the end of the show as well. But before we get into all that, obviously, we have lots of news and rumors. The PlayStation 5 had a Pro version revealed. Oh, big shock. There are some layoffs and resignations at a few different gaming companies. And there are also, of course, some Switch 2 rumors, Super Switch rumors. You decide. You be the judge. That's kind of part of the story. We'll be talking all about that and much, much more. But before we get into that, how's everybody doing? How was our past week this week?
It's been an interesting week. I think with Ivy's passing, it honestly hasn't been that long since we found out. And that colored the week a bit. And then I just kind of had a busy weekend that like had some ups and downs, but overall that balanced out, I guess.
Yeah, I saw you made a post about your Monochrome Heights. You finished some story segments. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm really back in the flow of working on it. And one of the big remaining things is the narrative part, which I've been working on in terms of writing and thinking about and having some art commissioned and all that. But like putting it together and making it actually work is still a big part of what's left to do. And I have made some chunks of that. Like the first major scene is pretty much done. It's kind of like listening to what you were talking about before this, David, it made me think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, my week was also like all over the place. My birthday was this last week, so
that's right. Happy birthday!
Thanks. Wasn't fishing, but thank you. I had a good birthday. I hung out with my friends. I went to a restaurant in my like grandfather's old neighborhood, like where he grew up, like that, like just little things like that. That was cool. Worked an event with my mom this past weekend that definitely tuckered me out. I mean, like it was fun and it was good and it's nice to make money, but then like I definitely took a sick day at like my actual job today because I just like needed the time. But then that led me to like looking into what my work's like actual like pay time off package like actually looks like, because I hadn't looked at it beyond like vacation time, and it's actually so much nicer than my last job. So I was like, oh yeah, I can take a sick day. Like that's nothing in like the big bucket of like my PTO. So
hell yeah.
That made me feel a lot better about about taking the time, and I definitely needed it.
Good for you.
I really did sleep most of the day. So yeah, all over the place, but overall, yeah, I'm all right, grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. We had a pretty big announcement today. A release date ish, I guess, announcement for Castlevania Nocturne Season 2 is released with a trailer that I edited. Or at least like co-edited on. Usually we have like a promo company cutting our trailers for Netflix. A little bit of inside baseball there. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about that, but I'm sure it's fine. And but this time it was actually one that I worked on myself. So that was kind of cool to see the reception to that. Everybody thinks it's looking pretty good so far. The anti-woke mob has yet to find this trailer. So it's all smooth sailing until all of a sudden we're like some big DEI nonsense that everybody's upset about. Anyway, whatever. I've just clearly got a hurt nerve there, so excuse me. But yeah, other than that, I've been kind of chilling a little bit. I had a pretty relaxing weekend. I went to a Shrek-themed party. I went to a Shrek-themed birthday party, so that was pretty fun. They had like a fashion show there, which was kind of cool. And I did a couple other things. I saw Beetlejuice, the first Beetlejuice for the first time ever. Never seen that before.
Oh.
It's great. Yeah. I was like, man, can't believe I never saw this. And then I saw Beetlejuice 2, and I thought it was all right. And yeah, that was pretty much my week. What about you, AVK? How you doing?
My week's been good. It's kind of funny. You guys are having me on the show again now. I think last time I was on the show was at the beginning of Splatoon 3, and I also had an ankle injury. It was my left ankle before. Now I'm recovering from another ankle injury. It is my right ankle. I'm up here in Colorado. I had a little bit of a spill on a hike. Ended up with a bunch of stitches. But yeah, I've been learning and enjoying learning to walk again, and did a little climbing, gym climbing last week, just kind of testing out maneuvers. But yeah, I've been playing a lot of games and had a blast with you guys for Splatfest. And other than that, yeah, just it's some ups and downs last week with some news and just yeah, recovery and that kind of thing. So, but the mountain air is here, and it's been nice.
That's nice. The ankle thing was not a coincidence. We had a guy pull a head on you, actually. We knew we wanted you back on, but we couldn't have you on without your ankle being fucked. So sorry, that's on us.
Oh boy.
Is that racketeering? Do people still do racketeering? Is that organized crime? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Last week we did our episode about Garbanzo Quest. We had an interview with the developer of that game. We got a couple comments. Carosetta said, "You guys are absolutely killing it with the guests. Love these episodes. Can't wait to check out Garbanzo Quest." Real Tomato said, "I can't get over the style of this game. Even just the way he walks is so cute." And then we also talked in the news about, of course, the successor to the Switch and the rumors and stuff around that. And got a couple comments on that. Record said that I still think Nintendo's going to try to squeeze out one last holiday of sales of the Switch before any announcement of a Super Switch. Could be totally wrong, of course, but still predicting early 2025 announcement. And then New Metal Zaddy over on our Discord said new Switch name, Switchblade. Back for Blood, which I thought was fun and relevant in terms of what you were kind of hinting at earlier, David, in the news that we'll get to later when we get into the news of this Switch name thing. So if you are out there watching or listening to this episode, you too can get shouted out. Leave a comment on the YouTube, post a review on Apple, share the podcast somewhere, send us a note, and we'll try to shout you out. If you want to financially support the podcast, please join us on Patreon, where you can become a patron and help us out that way. And it always helps us out if you hop over to our YouTube, if you're not already there watching, and hit like and subscribe. So we got a lot of news. It's a lot of non-Nintendo news this week, but it's going to be interesting. Here we go. First up, we're going to start with Steam. So Steam, Valve has rolled out the Steam families. This is sort of an overhaul of their previous system, and it already existed, but in beta. And now it is out of beta. It exists for, obviously, in theory, people who are in a family to share their Steam games. I've been using it with my son because it also provides some parental controls and that sort of thing, which is helpful. I mean, that was the main reason I did it, but it's also nice because my son can play my games, and he's bought a few games and I can play his. And obviously it's appealing to just average people who maybe want to, join up with their friends and that sort of thing.
That's right. Yeah. It's also for found families, not just the ones related by blood. Yeah. I mean, I'm a part of this with a couple other people. Bordan is in a Steam family with me, along with another one of our friends. And the way that it works is really fantastic, and I think that this is something, honestly, I'd love to see Nintendo take from. I mean, there's so much about like the Steam Deck and the Steam kind of like infrastructure in general that I think would be great if Nintendo took from some of that for their next generation. But basically how it works is kind of like everybody's games all kind of go into a big pile, and then anybody can just grab the games from the pile. And so when you're on your thing, it's not like, hey, go to this section to see what other people's games are that you can play. It's just your library just grows the more people that are in your Steam family, right? And then if you have multiple copies of a game, it kind of says that you have multiple copies, so multiple people can grab from that pile, and it ends up being a really nice system for game sharing and stuff like that, right? So this is definitely another very consumer friendly move from Valve. You have to think how much of this is just Gabe holding on to like, no, we're never going to go public. No, we're always going to be like gamer centric, right? But this is kind of like the kind of great stuff that can happen when you don't have investors that you have to please, right? So I love what Valve is doing with this, and yeah, I hope to see more of it in the industry.
Plus, they're still qualified for the largest private collection of video games digitally for the Guinness Book of World Records. So that's kind of,
like the Steam store or whatever you mean.
The Steam store, I think, currently holds it, but users could eclipse them.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
It's up for grabs. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, they used to have a system that I used some with like my cousin, but this is better. Like, because when in that instance, if he was playing any game, I couldn't play any of his games. I believe was the way it used to work.
That is how it was.
And now, if he's not playing X game, I could play it or whatever.
Yeah. Well, he's playing some other thing online, even, right? Yeah,
so
that's great. And this has been in beta for a while, and I've been using it in the beta. But I'm really happy that it's been pushed forward to everybody, because now I can move my Steam Deck back to the stable build, which is way less buggy, and I have way less issues with. So that's happy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I think it's interesting. A couple of the quote unquote downsides, which I don't know that they are. If you leave a Steam family, you have to wait like a year until you start and join a new one. I think it is to prevent people from just jumping families, I think, which makes sense. And then
you have to do that with your real family too.
I was just going to say that's how it should be.
Mm-hmm. You can't just get a divorce and go get probably
tell that to my ex-husband.
I was waiting for it. Thanks, Summer.
And then also, if someone in your family gets banned from a game online, you get banned too, which is an interesting one as well. But some accountability, family accountability on all this.
Hey, the internet needs that. Especially gamers need that. And maybe Nintendo could take a note from that and like let us talk to each other in games.
Don't give them any ideas. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it'll never happen.
But we can move along to some other industry news. So the PlayStation 5 Pro was revealed. There was this sort of technical showcase that they announced, and we talked a little bit about it last week, and everyone thought it was going to be this PS5 Pro, and indeed it is the PS5 Pro. It hasn't had the greatest reception among even PlayStation fans, I think, because it's got a high price and it's missing some things, you could say. And I've heard the general sentiment of like, that's not worth me buying unless my PlayStation breaks, was what my PlayStation friend said. Like, I don't see myself. And then, so it's $700, right? And that comes without a
even then, if your PlayStation 5 breaks, you can't trade that in and get credit towards the $700 thing. You'll have paid $1,200 for PlayStation 5s throughout the course of your life, which,
my friend clarified $810 with the stand and the disc drive.
That's correct. Yeah, it is a digital only device.
The fact that you have to buy a stand for it to stand vertically is nuts. Like, it's the enshittification of stuff to make you buy more stuff, right?
Shrinkflation.
It's
awful.
Shrinkflation AF.
Yeah. I hate it. I mean, why would you buy a $700 PS5 when you could spend $700 on Mac Tower wheels? Okay.
That's a great
point.
The
Apple wheels for the new Mac Tower are $700 as well.
Wait,
you could put those
I didn't
on
even know that you're talking about a real thing.
That's a real thing.
You could put the Mac wheels on your PS5 Pro, is that what you're saying? And just sit around the floor
cool
instead of the stand.
Yeah. No, this is obviously ridiculous, and it's Sony. Honestly, I'm talking about Apple. I mean, this is Sony trying to be Apple. This is what happens when there's no competition. This is what happens when they have the prestige hardware, when they're like, oh, we're kind of up ahead of the pack and we can charge whatever we want. I think this is setting a terrible example for the industry going forward. These mid-gen refreshes being all but guaranteed means that they have to put less R&D, or even worse, maybe throttle the quality of the console on its initial release because they know they're going to be releasing something more powerful down the line. I think it's bad for developers. I think it's bad for consumers. And it was ridiculous, this presentation, because, they were like they're like, look at the left. Isn't that so much better than the image on the right? And through the YouTube compression, it all looked exactly the same, so it was just a really bad look. And I don't know. I don't get this, anybody. We need to send a message that nobody wants this.
I want to point out that this is also shortly after, like, Sony just got done complaining about how they don't have enough exclusives, and that's after they also pulled the plug on what was supposed to be a new exclusive. Like, if we're talking about like reasons to get a PlayStation and not something else, like your reason is just like Spider-Man, I think, right? It's like what beyond that is like there's timed exclusives, but at this rate we know just about everything is going to eventually get to PC.
We'll see. I don't think Astrobot will, because like the PS5 and the controller and everything are such an integral part of like the plot and the characters of that.
Yes, and I've heard great things about that.
I know.
I'm trying to not have FOMO about that specifically, but okay. Yes, I already forgot about Astrobot, which is doing really well. But
Sony's having a roller coaster of a couple weeks here. It's been pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Sony makes Nintendo game and gamers like it. What?
Let's move on. We got a lot of upsetting news here to get through. We've got a rough slew of news that happened this week, starting off with some layoffs at Microsoft. Apparently, 650 people laid off from the Xbox portion of Microsoft, which, according to the IGN article, means that there have been 2,550 staff let go from its gaming business since it acquired Activision Blizzard in 2023, which is awful. But it doesn't stop there. We've got a lot of bad news. We'll just kind of get through it and maybe talk about it as we go here, if you have anything to interrupt me with. Apparently, there are investors at Ubisoft who are calling for a sort of coup over at Ubisoft to get rid of the Guillemonts who are in charge, who we don't like already, but these investors want to get rid of them for the wrong reasons, which is they want there to be, among other things, more layoffs to make Ubisoft more profitable, which I think is sort of the big headline here.
Yay, CEO gets fired. Nay, it's to lay off even more workers.
Yes.
What
are we doing?
Ubisoft's like stock is plummeting right now, and I think that investors are incredibly spooked, and some change is going to have to happen over there. I mean, there's been needing to be major change at Ubisoft for a long time from the top because of sexual misconduct allegations and a slew of other work-related issues. So I would not be sad to see them go, but we'll have to give updates on some of this Ubisoft situation as it's progressing, because it's pretty dramatic and involves a lot of fiduciary things that I'm not super aware of, but interesting to look at.
And it's not just the big companies that are having to deal with difficult times right now. Evening Star, which is the studio that made Penny's Big Breakaway, has had a few layoffs that they announced this week. Obviously, nowhere near the number of Microsoft and all that, but they said about a half a dozen people laid off over there, which is a bit of a bummer to hear, because you'd like to think little companies are maybe able to do all right, but that sucks.
If you've been playing Astrobot and you've been enjoying it, go play Penny's Big Breakaway, just so you know.
Hell yeah.
There's lots of great 3D platformers out there, not just being made by the AAA devs. Go support the indies, right? So that these teams can continue to stay around and continue to make amazing games and to keep pushing the industry forward with genres that we haven't been seeing for a long time that people are really clamoring for.
Over at Annapurna Interactive, another, maybe more medium-sized company, and but just sort of indie related. Apparently, the parent company over there was talking to the publishing part of Annapurna, the Annapurna Interactive, and all the people there basically quit. They were talking about spinning off as like a separate company, maybe, sounds like, but those talks obviously didn't work, and all the people over there, or at least a significant amount of them, just resigned and left.
I think everyone at the publisher resigned. Yeah.
That's nuts. Because it's a company, or Annapurna, has published some really great indie games.
They make some great games. Have we seen that before? Is there a precedent for this for any size developer?
I don't know. I mean, there have been walkouts. I mean, this is kind of like a company strike, I guess you could really call it. This is a work stoppage until they get their way, obviously. There obviously was important enough for them to just leave the company straight up. I'm very disappointed to hear this. I'm obviously in full support of the workers who feel like this was necessary in order to do. I'm really more disappointed more than anything in Megan Ellison, who is the CEO and owner and creator of Annapurna. If you're not familiar, Megan Ellison is an heiress. She's a billionaire who essentially started Annapurna Pictures, and I've always been a big fan of her. I'm not a big fan of most billionaires, but I've always, Megan Ellison was supposed to be one of the good ones, because she was putting her fortune towards funding, the visions of auteur filmmakers and all this kind of stuff, and then did the same for video games. And clearly, if those two entities need to be separate, and if there was a lot of oversight happening where there didn't need to be oversight happening, then it makes sense for a company like that to split off and become its own entity. Obviously I don't know all the details of how this happened, but I really hope whatever this play is right now gets kind of resolved, because there's a lot of games in development right now that are being published by Annapurna. I think as of now, all of those games are unaffected by this, but this acquiring of new talent that they've been doing so well over the past several years, it would suck to have that no longer be a thing. And it would suck to have indies have one less opportunity to get their games onto major platforms or just to be seen in general, I think.
Hell yeah. And just to piggyback off of what you're saying right now, David, I've never been on the show for this part of the show when you guys announce all the layoffs and bad news. But this is a part of the show that gets me so fired up. And it's been thrilling and heartbreaking to follow this over the past 2 years with you guys. And you guys have done some of the best reporting and the most consistent reporting on it that I've found out there. So thank you for that.
Thank you. We are real news people.
That's where you guys get kind of real, I feel like. That's So
I appreciate that.
That was a dark moment there of all those. Here's a slight bit of positive news. About a year ago, we talked about Unity, the game engine, and they made some changes to their pricing plans that was met with a lot of upset developers, I guess we could say. They backtracked on some of it, but kind of stuck to a few things. And in particular, we're talking about something they call the runtime fee, which is sort of a per install fee. But just before this was supposed to go into effect, Unity announced this past week that they are going to just full out cancel this whole runtime fee. If you make enough money off of using Unity, you have to pay per seat of the software rather than this whole per install thing, which was kind of a nightmare and awful thing. And they've kind of changed some of their pricing as well. Overall, good changes there.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I know, Patrick, you're kind of the Unity dev here on the show. I know you're still using kind of an older version of Unity, right? Is this something that's going to entice you back into going with the subscription service, or? Well,
you don't have to pay for Unity unless you make $2 million and off of using Unity. And I would love to be in that situation and have to give Unity some money. So I'm not, it's never really was going to affect me but they've changed that. It used to be $1 million, I think. And not that that's even that likely, but it's
$2 million is a lot more than 1 million.
Yeah,
it's 1 million more.
It's twice as much.
A historically high number.
So I think Unity, the main fear of Unity has been just all this shenanigans, right? Like, do I want to invest in something that might have a terrible ecosystem in a year when they keep changing stuff? But at least now it seems like the changes are good. We'll see. So yeah, I think at least for now, I'm going to keep my options open. But yeah,
it does seem like they really got spooked by everyone moving over to Godot and being like, fuck this shit. It's like they're still backtracking to this day. It's pretty crazy to see.
Well, we're going to move back towards Nintendo to kind of close out our news. First on the Nintendo front is there have been some alleged leaks that just happened about manufacturing of this Switch 2. And the big sort of takeaway here is that might be the actual name. According to somebody who posted on Famaboards, they claim to have to be a worker in a manufacturing that's working on this next console, and that it has a number 2 on it. So I think there were some other little details, but I don't know that any of them were quite as interesting as this alleged name confirmation. How do we feel about it being called the Switch 2?
I mean, a little bit yawny at that. I'm just kind of, Yeah, I think we're all kind of hoping for Super Switch, Nintendo Super Switch.
I think every cultured person on this planet wants it to be the Super Nintendo Switch. But I mean, let's get down to brass tacks here. I think Switch 2 is a good idea for it to be called. You know, if this is true, and who knows if it is, like you said, there were some other interesting details in here. I think they said the workers at the factory are meant to be making 1,000 units a day. Right. So who knows how many people actually work there, but there's lots of interesting little tidbits in this. Who knows how truthful any of it is? This is a Family Boards rumor, right? But if it is called Switch 2, I think that is the logical and probably best name for Nintendo to go with here, right? I think they obviously want to avoid a Wii U situation, as we've talked about a bunch of times before. I mean, I've seen some chatter online about this. You know, I think Super Nintendo Switch, Switch Advance, right? Like those, you know, people are like, well, those worked before. There wasn't confusion about those before. But it's like, yeah, we're in this era now of mid-gen refreshes and of hardware updates and all this kind of stuff. I think calling it Switch 2 is like, hey, you loved the Switch, you're going to love the Switch 2, you know? So I think it's fine. I'm also selfishly okay with it because it means we don't have to change the name of the podcast as long as it's got Switch in the title. I think we can keep Super Switch Headz around.
And just to add to that, I mean, we know that Furukawa has said that it's in the Switch. I don't know what the words he used in some sort of investor call at one point when they asked him that it is basically a Switch, right? Like, so maybe because it's not terribly inventive, I could see them doing that for that reason, right?
For marketing reasons, right now it's kind of like strike while the iron is hot. We've got Sony and Microsoft. Kind of what have they done this last year? And so some of their user base might be looking, especially after playing fresher games like Astrobot. They might be primed to buy a Switch 2, and calling it a Switch 2 lets those people know, hey, this isn't something like the Wii U. This isn't a SWII, SWII. No one's talked about that name nomenclature, but glad we didn't have to, honestly.
Well, you just did. Thanks for putting that up.
Yeah. No, the Switch is what someone said to me the other day. And I was like, I can't believe I hadn't heard that before.
Did they, when they said it?
No.
No, they said, Switch would like to play. What do you think about this, Summer? Are you happy with this title, if this is the title of the system?
Like you said, I would accept it and I would understand it, but they've never done that before. And I feel like it really would feel like they were giving in to the market. Is that what Nintendo needs to do? I don't know. They've never done that before. They've never done a quote unquote giving in to the market with their naming. Yes, not every console that they've released has been an absolute banger.
Have we talked about that? Have we talked about the every other console theory?
Yeah, we did last week, kind of. Okay. Zach brought it up on the episode last week.
Zach did, that's right.
Yeah. I think that you show the modern audience right now a new number on the console from Nintendo, and they're looking at a $699 PS5 versus a $399 Switch 2. You know, I think that you're going to get a lot of people being like, well, I'm just going to buy that and keep my PS5. You know what I mean? I think this is a good way also to just kind of like move a lot of that third pillar over. I just hope they announce the thing and it's got a nice price soon. Strike while Sony's kind of fumbling this whole like launch of their thing.
Yes.
I mean, not that Nintendo needs like a bunch of Sony ponies to like come over and, you know, and get that market. Like they've got a good market, right? But I do think that there's a lot of people with Switches right now that might not necessarily upgrade. So if you're looking to cross boundaries into the new consumers, now might be a good time for it. I think something straightforward like Switch 2 is good for that. I'm reading way too much into this, but hey, that's what the show's all about, baby.
That's what we do, baby.
Well, just real briefly on this one, there's been a couple of new Switch bundles announced and more that are rumored to have come along because there was some rumors of these ones that got announced. Just real quickly, in Australia, this is not in the North America, there's a Super Mario Wonder plus 1 year of NSO bundle with the Switch. And I think the rumor is that will also go to Europe. And over here in the States, we have 2 new Mario Kart 8 Deluxe bundles coming, one with the regular Switch and one with the Switch OLED. So if this rumor is to be believed there might be additional bundles with like Switch Sports and some other things coming, and the Switch Lite bundle as well, which I don't know if this plays one way or the other with the whole whenever the next console's coming. They're going to do bundles around this time anyway, so who knows? But if anybody has any theories on that, shout them out now, or else we'll move on. Yeah,
I mean, just
who knows?
We gotta get that Mario Kart selling 100 million copies, man. That's to the fucking moon. Hold.
Well, while we're talking about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it has been patched yet again. The game is now on version 3.0.3. How many years ago this game came out and how many patches it's gotten? This all Nintendo said is several issues have been addressed to improve the gameplay experience in their patch notes, which is really helpful in understanding what they changed. Though I did hear some people believe that it has something to do with modding and preventing some of the. I mean, I think just by upgrading the game, it kind of stops the current mod from working and stuff like that. And the data miner said it's just a few security flaws in the game's netcode that are changed. I don't know what to make of all that. I also thought it was funny. I saw in the comments somebody's like, I just bought the physical version that has 3.0 on it.
That is true. It's like insane that they're still updating it at this point, but yeah, I'm sure it's to stop modders or something like that.
Mods, hacks, exploits, all that stuff. Just a couple of Splatoon 3 things that are news related before we get into our main topic then. Obviously the Grand Festival weekend just happened. We all kind of mentioned that already. This was the big final. It's weird to call it final, but I think it's the final supported Splatfest that happened this past weekend, which was past versus present versus future. And Team Past took home the victory.
Quite decidedly.
We all knew that was coming. I mean, I felt like every time I went up against Team Pass, they smoked me.
I don't know, man. I was holding my own. We definitely, you, me, Magnus, and AVK, Patrick, beat Team Pass a number of times in 100x battles. I'll have
100x battle. And 10x and 10x.
We did our part.
We had a streak.
I was seeing some chatter online that all of the kind of like Splatoon OGs and all the like professional players were like in Team Past, which is kind of like an homage to Splatoon 1. So if you've been playing for that long, you've been playing forever, it makes sense that a lot of people would go and play in there, and they were just raking in crazy wins and shit. But I don't know, it was a very, very fun Splatfest. Congratulations to Callie and Marie. You guys definitely are good idols, so I'm not going to argue that. It was a good time.
Yeah, shout out to Callie Marie, all our fans, and all the Splatoon 1 OGs who have been playing this game for like 10 and a half years now. Jeez.
It's like 9, but yeah.
Okay.
Well, we can talk more about the Grand Festival on the main topic. The other little bit of news that came out this week is that Splatoon has like tweeted, the team has tweeted basically saying that this is the end of regular updates, that with this regular updates are coming to a close, but they will continue to have the sort of seasonal events and continue to have big run and that sort of thing, extra work. And also they're going to continue to do weapon adjustments, sort of balance patches for which makes sense, and I think is a good thing. We'll
still get updates like the one that you just announced for Mario Kart.
Hopefully a little less vague, but yes.
But also Splatoween is sticking around, so that's nice.
Yeah, it's nice that they're still kind of doing the big quarterly events, because that was something that they did really cool in this game, was they kind of changed up the whole look of the city and everything whenever it would be the kind of seasonal events. So I'm glad to see that those are still happening.
Well, they built all the assets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why not use them again?
And
Nintendo sometimes.
We don't know how long that's going to be. It wasn't very clear, but at least you'd think for a year or two.
At least until Splatoon 4 comes out.
Right.
We all move over to that one. Yeah.
Right.
That does it for our news roundup, but we're going to have a lot more Splatoon 3 discussion after this short break. We are back, and this week we are talking about Splatoon 3. The primary support of this game has just ended in a rather joyous festival called the Grand Festival this time around, which we're going to maybe open up our discussion with. And then we're going to kind of go into a little bit of a retrospective about Splatoon 3 and maybe a little bit of thinking about the future, as well as some reminiscing on our friend Ivy. But we'll start off with the Grand Festival. So this was a longer Splatfest. It had a unique hub. I don't know. It was just really special feeling.
It felt special. It I don't know. How long did it take you guys before you walked in? You loaded the game, you walked in, and I don't know, maybe 30 or 60 seconds into the first song, and it just hits you right in the heart. You're like, oh my gosh, so much happy nostalgia, just waves of it.
Yeah. Just in case you're not aware of what the kind of Grand Festival was like in this game, it basically, and I wasn't expecting this. I didn't know what to expect. I thought this was going to take place in Inkopolis Square or wherever it is that
Splatlands.
Wherever. I thought it was going to be like in the normal hub, and they would just kind of make it pretty, which is what they normally do for these Splatfests. But this was in its own area. It's at like the train station where you get off the train at the beginning of the game, and they essentially have put on a Burning Man style music festival out there. It's all in the desert, obviously, because the whole theme of this game is chaos, right? In Chaos versus Order, right? So it's out there in the desert, and there's 3 different stages where the idols are all doing songs on their own, and just the amount of work that went into this 4-day event was staggering, dude. It was this is not even talking about playing the matches and doing all the stuff that you normally do during the Splatfest. Just the hub you walk around in, it took my breath away, dude. I was completely caught off guard. And it was, the first half an hour to an hour of playing the Splatfest was just wandering around the festival grounds, watching performances, seeing the shows and stuff like that. It was a really, really special thing.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of funny Thursday night being like, oh yeah, I'm about to log on. I'll be ready to play, not knowing that this is what it was going to look like. And then logging on and realizing, oh wait, I need to take all of this in before I even get queued in for a match.
Yeah.
Because it was so just fun.
It was a blast.
Walk
it was great being there with all you guys. I've never attended a music festival with my friends before.
Really?
A digital music festival.
Yeah.
Well, it did they did a really good job of nailing a real festival. It did feel like a real music festival, with multiple stages and
bringing out the little critters that are a little too tall, so I couldn't see past them when I was trying to take a photo in some of the stages. I'm like, oh my gosh, someone who's taller is right in front of me. I can't believe they did this. Yes, I can.
And the cool photo mode that you could go into on the big stage, and I don't know, it was just really cool with all the booths and just fun to walk around in.
Summer, were you talking about the really tall jellies?
Yeah.
They're the tall skinny jellies, because the tall thick guys they have running the security are a different character model.
Right. It was the tall
So,
skinny jellies, and it was literally the first time I tried to go into photo mode when I was in the audience, and there was one right in front of me, and I was like, oh wow, this is music festival experience right here.
Yeah, the attention to detail was truly insane. Every light that was in there had a light source. You had the actual lights moving around like you would on a stage. You had the tent area where everybody could sleep after the festival was done. You could see a camping area. There was a sound booth where the people who were running the mixing board and the lights were, there was a VIP section. It was just the amount of work and attention to detail was it was simply staggering. I was completely nonplussed. I didn't know what to say, and still, I think, and we'll get to this in a second, you are going to be able to still access this in game through certain ways. But the vast majority of people that are that are experiencing this really just had this for this very limited amount of time. And something about that was just so special. You know, it was like, I felt bad for everybody that like wasn't into Splatoon. They were like missing out on this like incredible thing that like, you know, the only other game I could think that does anything similar to this is Fortnite, right? And Fortnite will have these kind of like timed events where there's like a concert happening like in Fortnite, or they screen a movie or something, you know, like they do stuff like that. But even then it's like, you know, that always seems like it's tied promotionally into something else that they're pushing. This was just Nintendo having a celebration of its own franchise within the game. No microtransactions. This is, you know, this is what you see is what you get, right? And it just felt so pure and amazing.
It felt like a celebration. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And all the different like the details with the stage. Like I remember, David, we were sitting there for a little while trying to figure out, hey, do you think those cameras that are like on the jib cam on the side of the stage, and then like the auto sliders, like, do you think those are actually synced up to the video wall? And we, you know, there's not a lot of other games that will make you ask questions like that. But it was fun to just sit there and geek out about stuff like that. And I think shout out DJ Cymata. He's a world-class DJ, first of all. I asked him because he's done a lot of work in live events as well, and like pretty large scale live events. And I was like, man, what would you even quote? Like, what if you were to build a quote for a stage like this for an event? How much do you think it would cost? And he thought about it for a while. He was like, all right, I've got a number for you. I think it would cost around $600K for a stage like that for like just one show. And I thought he kind of lowballed it. I was expecting more, but you know, with all the levels of security, they had the tech. Did you guys stop by the tech booth to see all those guys rocking out?
Yeah,
that's pretty fun.
Yeah, we did joke about how much it would have cost just to bring back Kelly and Marie, since they're not, you know,
and that was
like, touring anymore.
And that was excluding the budget for talent. That was just the tech budget, not even including talent.
Right.
Well, fortunately, there were only 3 bands at this festival, so it's really not that. It can't have been that big of an expense, but no, it's amazing too. And I mean, obviously, we should probably talk about gameplay and stuff at some point. But I mean, just talking more about this festival, like. I looked it up on YouTube afterwards. There were 19 different like songs performed throughout the entire night. So that was 6 each for each group. And then obviously on the final day, there was like the big, you know, the super group number where it was all 7 of them all together.
Now or never 7. Yes.
Exactly. Right. And I just think it's incredible that they did motion capture for like all of these individual dances, all of the like in between song chatter and all this kind of stuff. It really made me want to go to one of these Splatoon concerts in real life with like the holograms and everything. But just the fact that they put that much work into it and really brought it forward. I don't know, man. I'm just gushing on this episode. It was a very emotional experience. It was also like when that last day happened and they did the big supergroup number. It's like you go to the side stages where there's nothing happening, and then you go to the main stage and there's nothing happening, and you're like, what the hell? But then like the song starts just as you walk up, and it's that feeling you get at a music festival when you made it just in time to see the opening number, you know? And I'm not gonna lie, man, I teared up. I got emotional like seeing that song, especially at the end when they're all singing together. And it was just like, I mean, a lot of that was definitely fueled by just like, man, I just really wish Ivy was here to see this right now, because I think like Ivy would have absolutely ate this shit up. She would have loved it so much, dude. And I was just thinking about her pretty much the entire time I was playing this entire thing. But yeah, that was a pretty special moment for me, and it was an emotional one, and it almost felt like kind of designed to pull at the heartstrings, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe we can talk about the specifics of the festival in terms of the gameplay. The Splatfest played pretty normal in terms of the regular battles. You know, they've added in the fizz bangs, and that's, I don't know how many Splatfests have had it, but not a lot, right?
Feels like about half of them in this game.
Yeah. So there's that, but then also the tricolor was available from the beginning this time around, which is different than how they've done it. And when this festival changed, it also changed to the specific brand new stage for the tricolor, which is what the big run also took place in, but it was a little different for the tricolor. And so that was one of the big differences. And the tricolor before that was rotating all the previous tricolor stages, which was really cool because then playing Tricolor this time around was just a lot of fun.
It felt like they had it locked in finally this time. Finally. Like, this is how it should have been the rest of the times, but they didn't have all the rotation of stages, or maybe they didn't.
Right.
But
which is funny because I played that mode the least because I was playing with a bunch of people all at once and I didn't want to exclude anybody, you know. I definitely wish I could go back and just do some Tricolors all the time again. I hope they bring back the rotating stages again whenever they do more Splatfest.
That's one thing I'm really hoping for. And I have a feeling with the retroactive Splatfest, I don't see why they wouldn't.
Right.
But we'll have to see, because that'd be a blast to have, just an entire weekend of all the stages from the
just every 2 hours whenever the maps change. Yeah.
Or if they just put that in the game as a mode that was available all the time for anyone to play at any moment, I wouldn't mind.
I loved that this was a 72-hour festival instead of a 48-hour festival.
Yeah.
And I think having the last day be the last 24 instead of splitting it in the middle worked really, really well. And it did, like you said, gave you more of a chance to hit some of those Tricolor stages that you maybe missed on Splatfest that you might have missed in the past. So that was really nice.
I was going to bring up something that you kind of brought up while we were playing, but the importance of timing in this game. If we could talk about the importance of timing, I guess not just in this game, but in the other game that is a Nogami-led team, Animal Crossing, timing is very important as well. But having, this specific time window for an in-game event and the scheduling of, every 2 hours the stages change. It seems like the developers really like clocks.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that's kind of more about like the Splatoon 3 as a whole and the Splatoon franchise as a whole, rather than just this event. But you're totally right. And that's something we talked about. You want to be able to like have Splatfests and these things like be available at all times. And I think that would be nice. And I think that in a lot of ways, like when the game is done, I think that would be a cool thing for them to do. But you're right. Like this EPD or whatever this development team is called that makes this and Animal Crossing, they both are very obsessed with real life time, right? And schedules and stuff like that. And I think both of these games, like, you have limited things and they're only around for a little bit of time. And sometimes that's frustrating, but that's also kind of what makes them special.
Correct.
Right. And I think it's kind of the same thing with Animal Crossing. Did you have something to add to that, Summer?
Oh, I just completely understand the reasoning behind wanting to do timed events. Exactly. I think it adds to the game being about community, because if something is at a specific time, then that does force more people to dedicate their own time to playing during that specific time. Because otherwise, if they don't facilitate that for us, then it can sometimes be difficult to try to gather everybody together, just like holidays, right? Which is kind of what Splatoon and Animal Crossing lend themselves well to. Or I guess this team, holidays are a time that force people to get together. So that's what they did this weekend and that's what they do with Splatfests. They're forcing us to dedicate a specific time to make sure that we set that time aside to play with our friends. Yeah,
you're totally right. And it can be hard to like get people together. I've seen it a couple times in the Discord recently. We're like, hey, let's play some multiplayer games. And then like everybody's kind of like waiting for the person to be like, here's the time we're playing. You know what I mean? Because everybody's like, when's everybody available? And then like nobody really wants to like take the lead. So it's like the game itself being like, no, this is the fucking time you're playing. Make time for it.
It's almost like they know their audience. Yeah,
exactly. Right.
Well, and as I don't know, did you guys ever hear anyone tell you that video games are a waste of time when you're growing up or anything like that?
Yeah.
And
sure.
I think whenever we're talking about community and coming together, whether it's in real life or virtually, especially in this world today, it's a beautiful thing. And whenever the implementation of time in a video game is carried out to such an extent as in these games, and specifically, it's not like something for the Grand Festival or these timed events, it really does make you reflect on the human experience and coming together as a community and what that really means. And this Splatfest for me, especially after the loss of one of our dear community members and dear friends, Sarah, aka Ivy, it really made me reflect on the importance of friendship and community. And it was great to do that with you guys together this weekend.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it was like beyond symbolic, this whole weekend, right? Like it felt like almost ordained, or like, you know what I mean? It was like a very trippy sort of thing to have this game that is all about bringing people together and is like so much of the impetus of like what we would do with our free time, like with Ivy, You know, like it was a really touching thing. Did you have something else, Patrick?
Oh no, I think absolutely. I mean, it being the last Splatfest had a big, draw, and also tying into what y'all are talking about. And I think that I liked that it lasted longer. And I think when I think about just what y'all are talking about with this EPD group and with their games, sometimes I think it's a bummer when you hear people be like, but I work that weekend, or you know what I mean? Like, and and there's no way around that on some level, but I do think a little bit longer of an event like this is nice. And I wouldn't mind if they made every Splatfest
start on Thursdays,
on Thursdays or whatever, just a little
4.
more time. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
Start on Thursday and on Monday night, baby.
Yeah.
It just makes it a little more accessible and a little more options. And this time around, I was like, well, the main time I can play is Saturday night with people. But then when somebody pointed that out, I was like, oh, I can do Thursday night, and
totally
Thursday night ended up being a good time. So yeah,
I mean, Nintendo they've moved their release dates from Fridays to Thursdays now. So maybe Furukawa just loves Thursdays.
Thursday's the new weekend. Yeah.
Thursday's the new Friday.
Seriously, when we were all playing on Thursday night, in my brain it was the weekend, and I was like, "Oh, gotta go to work tomorrow." Like, no, I'm playing Splatoon, baby.
We played all the way up until the very end, 7 p.m. Central of the Splatfest, and we made it to the end, and I was like, "Oh man, well that'll be that, and they'll put us back." But then I was like, but after they do Splatfest, there's always those like moving trucks or whatever in the square. And there's like, they have a little bit of stuff. I'm like, maybe they'll do something like that. And they totally did. It was like, they made it to where it's like you wake up the morning after the big finale in the festival grounds, and shows are still going on, but it's like, the idol groups are like doing these like really chill, like low key songs. They're like sitting down, or they're just kind of leisurely walking around, like fucking with each other, doing little bits on stage. And it was such this beautiful, like, I've been to Bonnaroo before, like more than Burning Man, really. This felt like Bonnaroo, this festival that they had in the game. And that was very much a thing where it's like the festival ends, you're packing up your car, you're packing up your tent and everything, you're getting ready to go. Some, sad fuckers still playing on some stage kind of far away with like a couple people in attendance, but most people are getting ready to go. It kind of felt kind of like that, and the vibe was very like peaceful and chill. And it was a great like little coda to the festival. And I thought that was a really special thing.
That's a great interpretation of that moment after the festival. The thing that it made me think of is like, have you ever been to a festival where you camp out and you wake up and like you might go to a stage for like some people are doing like sunrise yoga and like a sound bath meditation.
Yeah.
It was like, Splatoon's a hyper stimulating game, so they can't simply do something that chill. But it seemed like very much that vibe that you described. Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, we should move on to kind of just talking about Splatoon 3 as in a little bit of a retrospective. But I think the Grand Festival, do you want to explain how people can get back to it?
What's that about?
I was wondering if we could maybe do like a little segment here that we were talking about, because the new Amiibos also came out. And essentially the way that you can get back to the festival is through like, basically it's like a memory. So if you scan in any idol amiibo from any of the idols that you might have into the game, it'll be like, hey, would you like to go back to this memory of this festival, basically? And it gives you 3 options. So you can go to the festival when it was on like the first 48 hours. You can go to the festival when it was doing the grand festival with all of them together doing a set, or you could do the day after the festival where everybody's doing their low-key thing. So you can kind of go back to any one of those 3 days within the festival. So that stuff is still around.
That's super cool.
And I thought this also might be a pretty nice time for me to show off some of these new Amiibos as well, because I did get them in.
Yo, show them off to us. Come on, bust it out. Bust it out, bad boy.
But I got these the other day at Best Buy just before the festival started. I've got Callie and Marie here. I figured we'd do a little bit of an unboxing here because I didn't open them yet. We figured we'd farm it for content. So I'm gonna open these up right here on the podcast. You've got your basically these are the Callie and Marie that are from the single player campaign, as I understand. Someone told me that. I thought it was the festival versions of them, but it's not. That shows you how much I play the single player of Splatoon games, which is pretty much not at all. But I'm not going to keep these in box because I'm not a weirdo. And instead, we'll open them up and show them off right here on stream. You got right here. This is Marie.
Nice.
Marie's looking pretty nice. Got the umbrella and everything as well.
Let me see that umbrella design again. That's pretty.
Oh yeah, really nice. Right up
That's
top.
really detailed.
Video viewers right now are looking at these amiibos. Audio listeners, bear with us for the next couple minutes because I'm not cutting an audio only version of this. Then we've got Callie right here as well.
Love it.
You're more of a Callie fan?
Oh
than a Marie
yeah,
fan?
I'm a Cali
Right.
girl. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. I can actually see that completely. It's a 360. I'm a Marie. I'm a Marie head out of the two of these. So so there's Callie as well. I'm glad I didn't fuck up their names because I sometimes call them by the wrong name. And then the other set was this Pearl and Marina set. And this is them with their side order costumes. Now, the unlocks that you get from each of these for the Pearl and Marina set, you actually just get their costumes that they're wearing, that these amiibos are wearing, and you can just wear them for your characters. And for the Callie and Marie set, it gives you kind of characters from the single player campaign. I don't know that you don't dress up as Callie and Marie, but it's like you get like I forget what that captain's name is and the kind of old pirate guy, but here's Marina right here. Marina's probably I think Pearl and Marina are definitely my favorite of the idols. No shade to any of the others, but I love their like dynamic and personality. And I'm a big Pearl fan as well. Pearl really reminds me of Yolandi Visser from Deontward. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but very Yolandi coded. And here's Pearl right here as well. I love that fucking little weirdo.
And both of these are featuring special edition silver and gold ink, isn't that right, David?
That's true. At least these are. Yeah, you've got which was kind of the theme of the side order DLC. But definitely, these are definitely worth picking up. Really enjoyed these amiibos. For some reason, the only amiibos that I've been like, I'm going to get everyone are the Splatoon series. Those are like the ones that I collect. So if anybody ever has any leads on the Octo expansion set from Splatoon 2, those are the only ones that I still need. Those are really hard to find. And they're still very expensive. I hope they reprint those.
I literally was looking them up earlier today because I was trying to figure out, like, I was like, surely they're not being like sold for such a ridiculous price anymore.
The Agent 8 amiibo
Agent 8, right?
is so cool. I think it's like one of the best designed Splatoon amiibos, but it's really hard to find. That's cool. Thanks for letting me show those off.
Absolutely.
And for only 3 payments of $19.95, you too can have your.
Well, I think we should talk about Splatoon 3 as a whole. We don't have to go through everything that's new in the game or everything, update that happened, but just kind of talk about all of the, like, how much new content was in Splatoon 3 compared to Splatoon 2 and how much they continually added. Some of the stuff was there from the beginning, like lockers and table turf and all that, but then they added in the challenges and extra work and obviously just lots of outfits and stages and all that over the years. The game really feels amazing. Like, it felt great at the beginning, but when you consider some of those additions, I think it's really kind of an incredible package. What do y'all think about like the evolution of it and where it ended? Any thoughts?
This is kind of the same journey I go on with every Splatoon game since Splatoon 1. When Splatoon 2 came out, I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I'll get it because it's on the Switch, but I like sold my copy of Splatoon 1 because I was like, it's pretty much the same game. Right. And for like the first, 6 months or so, it felt like that. Like there were a couple new modes, there was some new stuff, but then it's like over time, the games really grow their own identities. It's like as the like meta grows, as the personalities of like the idols and the characters in it and the fashion you can wear grows, as you get
player
more.
Base.
The player base, as the stage count and the side things and new modes and whatever, all that stuff gets added over time, and it really gives a game its own identity. And I would say that Splatoon 2 felt extremely different from Splatoon 1. And I would say the same thing about Splatoon 3. These it was the same thing with this. When I first started playing Splatoon 3, I was like, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, I probably still play Splatoon 2 because it was, but then it's like as it progressed and got further and further into it, and the changes to the Splatfest and the changes to how they did a lot of stuff, and the new single player and the DLC that they add for each games, which is completely unique. It really gives it its own identity, and I think I would consider Splatoon 3 one of the best games I've ever played. I think I really think they put so much heart and soul and work, and like they just really honed the feel of the game in all of its elements, right? So I think every time a new game comes out, it really feels to me like it's really worth it, and not only that, but I grow to like it even more like as it progresses.
Yeah,
I think that was one of the big factors in the beginning, is how samey it may have felt to a lot of people to Splatoon 2 at first, but that was before we got a lot of the new updates and a lot, new weapon kits, new stages, a bunch of just the season. I guess we can talk about one of the biggest differences, the difference between the drip feed of all the new content and seemingly random kind of drops that they would do in Splatoon 2 versus Splatoon 3 having the season system. Again, going, looking back, nods to the clock and the Roman calendar.
I hadn't put that together, but I think that's a good point. I think obviously they might drop an update to the game to fix something randomly, you know what I mean, in Splatoon 3. But we had, over the course of the first 2 years, and maybe we didn't know this right away, but we had markers to look forward to know, they're probably going to add, or they're almost definitely going to add 1 or 2 stages when they have the spring update or whatever. And then it kind of became fun towards the end where I'd be like, what will they add? Because, sometimes it would be, they would add like a new, I can't think of their name now, even though I should, the like big enemies in Salmon Run,
King Salmon.
King Salmonid. Yeah. They'd add a new one of those sometimes. And it would be like, will we get a 4th one? I don't know.
The anticipation factor, it built excitement, and it would get people, speaking of the community and community building and growing that player base over the course of the life of the game, which, David, to your point about how you said, I think this might be one of the greatest games I've played. The year that this game came out, it did win multiplayer game of the year with some of the most abysmal netcode that we, I think, probably have ever experienced in video games. The Nintendo servers are often referenced, and it's kind of a joke to us in the know at this point because there are no Nintendo servers. But I think it is really something that speaks to the depth of this game, not just from a game feel or not just from, there's lots of cool events, or it's a really fun game and there's lots of people who play it. It's like there's not just one aspect of Splatoon 3 that makes it great. It's all these that come together despite, all odds, especially with the importance of online play being very slow with the netcode.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, hats off to Nintendo for pulling something like that off, because I don't know about you, Patrick, but I can't play Smash Online.
I do, but yeah.
You're still doing it? Okay,
I do.
I know you were for a while. Yeah,
I'm like
you get high up, people have good internet generally, but but every once in a while you get a laggy match, but
no, I agree. I mean, and as far as this Splatfest went, I thought I didn't have one. Well, maybe I had one drop, but that was because somebody on the other team dropped. I didn't get any communication errors. I didn't get any, I had long wait times. But for me, it was a really smooth experience for the most part when I was playing. And I streamed this game for like 5 hours on the final day, and I don't think I had one drop or anything like that.
You're lucky.
Was that not your experience?
You were lucky. I had 2 or 3
never mind.
drops at least. I had 2 or 3 hard drops out of nowhere at least. One of them was during I think a 10x match, so that kind of sucked. But you may have lucked out.
I don't know that there's a better way. You could argue that you could put in a bot or something, but like I had a lot of matches where you start and there's a hiccup and you're like, somebody dropped out, and then and it got to the point where I started to really recognize it this time around and like just not even play, because 10 seconds into the match, then the match will end, and
it's when that guitar
connected.
It's when that guitar loops too many times and you're like, That's what it is for me. That's how I can tell.
There were a couple updates that they did before this last Splatfest that did add some quality of life stuff, though. I mean, like they made it now to where when when you do get that like bad connection thing that used to like freeze the whole game, you can move around now during that. You can keep playing even when it like shows that. So it's like little things. They're still kind of improving right up until the very end of this game. Also, they added the ability whenever you're done with the match, if you hold A, you go through that final results screen like way faster. That's something that I think Ty Typos pointed out to us when we were playing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had no idea. And then I was like,
until,
I'm never going to not do that again because it made it way, way faster. It was pretty amazing.
Something I didn't know until the final night of the Grand Splatfest. But thanks.
Yeah, exactly. So there's little stuff like that they don't really tell you. But I think multiplayer games, multiplayer shooters, something like Warzone or Call of Duty or whatever, you see a lot of people like talk about like cool plays that they did, or like, here's a time that like me and my team decimated the other team or whatever. The way that I see people like talk about Splatoon online, it was really apparent after this festival ended. Like going on Twitter was actually really fun because everybody was just like fucking high from the Grand Festival and just like riding that high like after it was done. Everybody was just like talking really emotionally about the game and speaking about like how it made them feel, how special it was, about the community, talking about the characters, talking about the world. Some people were like, hey, look at this 333x battle that I won, and here's the play of the game. But it was like with other games, like that's what people focus on.
Mm-hmm.
With this, it really is like, this game is just like something different from most games. Like it's unlike any multiplayer game I've ever played, And I think like, and especially a shooter, right? Like the fact that they were able to like make this a full world, that feels so unique, and it feels Nintendo, but also feels kind of its own thing beyond that. I don't know. It's just an absolute miracle that these games exist, and that they've been able to like if you'd shown me 9 years ago when I'm playing Splatoon 1 on like the failing Wii U system that there would be an in-game Bonnaroo with like thousands of attendants and everybody's playing, I wouldn't have believed it, Like it's just incredible what they've been able to cultivate over the years, and it's no wonder that the game is as, successful as it is, especially in Japan. I don't know. It just shows if you really put your whole ass into a game, like what you get out of it, right?
I think talking about, also how successful it is in Japan, I do want to point out just a kind of a cool inkling fashion milestone that the game hit. I believe in August, they released a collaboration with Converse. That means that the Converse looking shoes that are in the game are literally on the streets of Harajuku now with the Splatoon logos on them and like cool little like inkling stuff around the eyelets and like, just kind of cool little features on the classic Converse shoe. But they are part of real fashion now. And that's something that I think the game, tongue-in-cheek, really prides itself on, is like being connected with like street fashion in a way. I don't know. Have you guys noticed?
Totally.
This?
The whole game is styled around that. Yeah.
Is there anything we want to make sure we hit on the things that are unique about Splatoon 3?
The idols and the music. I mean, there are not a lot of shooter games that have idols or where the music is, something you want to revisit when you're not playing the game usually. The approach to sound design is just really special in this game, and like David was saying, it's just like there's all the different aspects that come together that make it into a special experience and a great community to be a part of. I don't know about you guys, but some of the best friends I've met in life are people I've met at shows or festivals. David and I are great friends. This is a good example of this. So a game that brings people together because of music, and also kind of one that creates a secret music festival that they don't even tell us about until the very end of the game. I mean, I don't know other developers or other games that are aiming to do things like this. So it's a lot of small parts that add up into something that feels very progressive and very advanced for video games, especially to run on the Nintendo Switch at the end of the day,
Yeah, that is something that was pretty remarkable too, is just how well the game runs without dropping any frames throughout all this crazy shit that they're putting in. And this last Splatfest was pretty crazy. But yeah, the way that music fits into the whole series the whole way through has been integral, right?
And like you were saying earlier, I think David kind of as the new idols. Like I remember when the game first came out, people were like, I don't know about Fry or whatever, you know what I mean? But like, I think over time, their personalities and their identity becomes, and they put out new songs, and then we see them perform. I don't know, at every Splatfest, and and then like you said earlier, the mocap and the dancing. Like you posted that video and tagged me, David, and I watched it for a while, and I'm like, geez, this just looks great. Like like, and the music is such a part of it, and it's so weird, like. Also, right? Like, I mean, the whole game is weird, but the music is weird. The like vocals and stylistically, all the songs kind of sound in the same like genre, but I don't know how to define.
They got a couple of
speaking
different
the same
genres
language.
in there.
Yeah. There's a few songs where you're like, oh, that's more like this or that, but it's cool.
I really do think it is the developers' way of building upon what the universe is, which is a post-apocalyptic, like our universe, but this is how they ended up evolving. And I'm sure there were some remnants of the culture that we had, and that's how they've built up their styles and their music. And it's a big part of their culture. So the idea of these are the things that are always going to be important, even if we all get decimated and, squids and octopi or what end up evolving.
Octopodes.
They're what end up evolving enough to this is what's going to be important to them too.
This is why it's important to make a time capsule full of plenty of great idol posters and K-pop music and bury it in the bottom of the ocean.
Correct. Love Live and K-pop idols are actually what ends up being the significant thing from our generation.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit about where we think the series can go from here, because I think that the end of the game, the last Splatfest of Splatoon 2 was Chaos versus Order, right? And that was what they went with. They made the entire theme of this game chaos, right? And it was very clear, and the whole thing felt kind of post-apocalyptic, and it felt very chaotic. We've now got a situation where the final Splatfest was past versus present versus future. And if they follow through with that, that means that the theme of the next game is going to be the past. What do we think about that? Where do you think they could go from here with Splatoon 4? Do you guys have any theories on like what Splatoon 4 might look like?
Yes. 2 words, time machine.
Say no more. I understand exactly what you're talking about. No, what do you mean? Please expand. What do you mean by that?
I'm literally just purely spitballing. But if present time, I guess side order is kind of the most present part of the canon. It's very near automata coded. It's very like dystopian future, super like hyper stylized bleakness.
Yeah,
but,
the DLC was the order part of
yeah,
chaos and order.
Just from an aesthetic perspective, maybe it seems if we're going to the past, how are we going to get there? And time travel within the context of side order, I could see that being a good segue into going to different places in time from previous parts of the timeline in Splatoon.
I want to be like the one that asked this question, because I know when Splatoon 2 ended, they said they were going to do the last Splatfest was going to help determine it. I don't recall them saying that this time around, but I think everybody has assumed it's going to be. And I'm not sure that I'm right about this. If somebody out there is listening and knows, oh, they did say it or they didn't say it, let us know. But I wonder if one theory I've had is, could this be a major idol influence? Like, do they want? I have a hard time believing they don't make new idols. But if they didn't, or if there's some question about which idols to like focus on for DLC or for
I am going to need some more amiibos. So
I think they'll want to make new characters,
but
I would love including new
Marie
species. New species would be a good addition.
Yeah. No, Patrick, I hear what you're saying though, that like maybe it's almost a little bit of a red herring, and instead of it being past, present, future, it's more a focus of, okay, we're going to develop more content for Callie and Marie in the next game, whether it's DLC or they're like
single player,
kind of secondary to the. Yeah.
I don't know.
That seems more likely. No, that
seems
seems a lot more likely within the Splatoon universe. I just wanted to go
sci-fi
with it,
Yeah,
and also,
sure.
if they did go back to the past, technically, if we were going to get different species of playable characters, I feel like we would have to canonically go back to the past, because there's not that great of a possibility of other species existing besides cats, salmon, inklings, and octolings, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, within the lore, which is contains multitudes. But yeah, I think I definitely think it'd be cool to have it be like that's kind of what is tinged by this. I do think it would be cool to see like what is like a proto Splatoon world. Like it'd be cool to have a Pokemon Legends Arceus of Splatoon. You know what I mean? Like
that's good, dude.
I have not stopped thinking about when you guys did the like spin-offs episode. David, I think you were the one that talked about like an idle management simulator. I haven't stopped thinking about that. And what a great, like, I think we're ready for a spin-off game for Splatoon. I think
I'm with you, Summer.
Right?
I'm with you, Summer.
I think we could get spin-offs that are just funny little things like that. And I think about how long it took us to get spin-off games kind of, for Animal Crossing. And I think Splatoon's maybe due for one. And that could be a great way to also flesh out the world that isn't just like the next mainline game.
I agree. I think it would have to be in addition to a Splatoon 4 because just the way that right, totally. But it's like I got a feeling this team has already been hard at work on the next Animal Crossing, right? We'll see that pretty soon with the new Switch's release, right? And then it'll be a couple years into the Switch 2's release that we see Splatoon 4. But yeah, no, I think a spinoff would be fucking excellent, right? I think that would be really great. I'm just curious, like, what they're going to make the kind of the gimmick of that game. Because, with Splatoon 3, it was like, there are 3 idols this time, and it's tricolor, and there's 3 things to choose from in all the Splatfests. And I don't think they're going to do 4 next time. I feel like that would start to get a little unwieldy, although maybe they could.
I love 5.
It would set a bad precedent.
They gave us a boy band.
Yeah, it would set a bad precedent. Yeah.
Like every game, there's 5 teams. Now there's 6.
Yeah. This is what George Washington had in mind when he was like, "Don't have a 2-party system." It was, anyway, I don't know exactly what they're going to do there, but I definitely do want to see new idols, and I want to see some kind of new gimmick with the game and expanding it, maybe a little bit of a bigger leap this time than it was last time, especially on next-gen hardware. I think we're going to have the opportunity to have bigger, more expansive maps, up the player count on some of these matches, have 3 teams, right? Or
5v5, baby.
Yeah, 5v5 or
every other shooter.
8v8 or something like that.
That'd be cool.
Like making bigger things, this battle royale mode that we've talked about for a while. I think that there's a lot of really cool stuff that you could do in Splatoon that the next Nintendo hardware is going to be able to help facilitate. And so I just really hope to see some nice new leaps. But even if they didn't, and even if they just kind of keep going with these like kind of small iterations, I think that this team has proven that it doesn't feel like a waste of money, that you can, Nintendo has done this incredible approach to live service gaming here, where there's no fucking microtransactions. It's a base fee, and the content that you get over time isn't because they're trying to like eke out profits. It's just because they're trying to keep a player base involved and engaged and keep your interest going over time. And, I started to wane a little bit on Splatoon 3, like over the past, 6 months or so. I didn't play as much as I have historically in the past, but I think their formula here is working really, really well. And I would hate to see them completely abandon it for something, like a ground up sort of like, let's go back to basics sort of thing. I really want to see them evolve on this formula.
Yeah,
Same,
I agree. I hope they stick with this sort of 2-year plan, single purchase game. I don't know that they wouldn't, but there's always that fear that they'll make just Splatoon on NSO and you will pay however much, and that's a little scary. But I'm going to take it back just a minute to the discussion about the past. I mean, the other thing I see if they do really take past as the influence is just moving us to another town or whatever, which I think is very likely for Splatoon 4 because it's what they've been doing. And maybe that is an older town, and so it has old buildings or maybe even like things that survive. I don't know. Just like a very past influenced aesthetic in terms of like, and I guess that would be Japanese but I don't know how they would do that. But that's what
I think it has to be. I think Splatoon is Japan coded. You know, the whole world is very much Japan coded. It's just modern Japan, right? I mean, the festivals play like Japanese festivals, you know, like that whenever they do Splatfests, it's like it's like these Japanese parades that you see like in traditional Japanese culture, but it's like the cities and stuff is like Shibuya crossing and all this kind of stuff, right? So if they did something that was a little more traditional Japanese, I think we would go back to some of those like the tatami stylings of like traditional Japanese culture, like within the Splatoon universe. I think would be a really interesting thing to see, and I think that'd be a really cool theme.
That would be a lot of fun.
I mean, Shogun just took show of the year last night.
18 Emmys. Yeah,
what people want to see.
Give the people what they want to see, Nintendo.
Yeah.
Well, any final thoughts about the future of Splatoon we want to share?
2 thoughts. First of all, just a show of hands. Did anyone else see Big Man's tail this weekend? Anyone?
I did. Yeah, I noticed.
Has anyone ever his tail?
No, I guess
I did notice it when he spun around on the
I've
stage.
like never seen his tail. I just wanted to point that out.
You guys aren't peeping his tail whenever he goes by on the floating stage.
I guess I hadn't. Yeah.
No, it looks like he had a bandage on his tail. I hope he's all right. It could have been. He was rocking out pretty hard on stage. So I just had to point that out. But no, I want to talking about this future of the franchise or the future of Splatoon. I think we're ready. As far as spin-offs, it seems like the easy first choice would be a Splatoon rhythm game. A Splatoon rhythm game would absolutely slap.
Yeah.
Give us a goofy peripheral. We'll buy it. The American audience is thirsty for Splatoon merch to buy, it seems like.
And microplastics.
And microplastics, yes. Absolutely.
Straight into my veins.
See, there we go. We got a couple sales right here. But yeah, a Splatoon rhythm game. I know they did it in Splatoon 2 in the little like arcade that you could play in the square in Splatsville. But yeah, it would be so much fun. I find myself firing up the game just to listen to certain songs that you can't really find other places sometimes. And having a rhythm game would just perpetuate the necessity to have those songs be more widely available and make the music and style and the game more popular. So I think and also the presence of arcade machines could possibly, it could be you could look at that, the having a physical presence in arcades, especially how big the game is in Japan. It seems like that would be a pretty good move and a lot of fun.
And put the idols in there. More people get familiar with them and stuff too.
Yeah, that too.
I think we are gonna, share a couple quick stories and some memories about our friend Ivy, because Splatoon was such a big game that we all played with Ivy before she passed. I know we all changed our names to Ivy. We all talked about Ivy over the course of this weekend. I'll just say, getting this started, I think I've said this to some of y'all separately from recording, obviously, but just like, I played a lot of Splatoon with Ivy with my son, and 2 years ago he was pretty young and he still is, but like, and it was just and IVK, you were there too, actually, before when Splatoon 3 came out. The 4 of us, you, me, Ivy, and my son, we played a bunch of the like demo Splatfest, right?
The Grand Preview, the Splatfest Grand Preview.
That's right.
I believe.
And it's just like, that was like his first experience of like voice chatting with people, online and playing a multiplayer game. And Ivy, we would play a lot in the morning because of our schedule and his schedule. And she played a lot in the morning because of her lifestyle too. And so that was just like a big thing. And she would always send me messages about how much she loved playing with him. And I don't know, like he's young and he's not always the best player, especially a couple of years ago. You know what I mean? And so it's nice to have somebody who's positive and like
patient,
supportive and patient and like encouraging.
Especially given that Ivy was one of the best Splatoon players I've ever played with. Like, extremely talented.
So that's one of my Splatoon Ivy memories I wanted to make sure and talk about here.
Man.
Yeah, I didn't really have anything like prepared to say here, and I probably should have. But I think we talked about it a little bit last week, but Ivy was like such an incredibly generous and supportive friend. I think, we met Ivy really through this Discord. I don't really remember exactly. And obviously her name is Sarah, but it's impossible for me not to call her Ivy. But I don't even remember exactly when she joined necessarily, but it kind of felt like she was always there. And I think regardless of like what the topic of conversation was, Ivy always had something to like add and always had like a positive spin on like everything. Ivy had this incredible ability to like find the positivity and the silver lining to any situation, and not in a way that like felt like it was like, oh, okay, well, you're just kind of like saying something nice to make people feel better. It was like, oh yeah, that's actually a good way of looking at that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I grew so much like understanding the way that like Ivy saw the world, and it really like made me want to be a more positive and optimistic person, which is like hard in the world oftentimes. There's so much bad shit in the world and it beats you down constantly, and just like practicing that positivity, practicing that optimism like in the face of adversity is really difficult. But I think that's something that I want to strive to be more like her in.
You're talking about that made me think about, I had this conversation with Typos where we were talking about how Ivy Road or just fell on the side of the line of like cheesiness almost.
Yeah.
Like, but it didn't hit that
way.
It was like not quite there, and because it was always genuine and like
it's wholesome and genuine
and
exactly.
wholesome, and so it's like if you didn't know her and you just read one of her messages, you might be like, that's kind of cheesy, but like it wasn't.
That's the type of person
That's
like the type of person she was. Yeah.
What you're saying, David, made me think of that.
Yeah, and she was a writer and wrote a couple novels that I still need to read. Sorry I didn't read those while you were around, Ivy. I will be reading those, I promise. Yeah. Next on my reading list. Reading books is hard in the year 2024. But she would write you long messages. I think everybody that has been friends with Ivy like has at least one fucking novella in their DMs, from Ivy. I mean, when I was going through a lot of my cancer stuff and I was going through, the loss of my ex-partner last year, Ivy was like there day one, like shooting me messages, these long thought out, messages, like in that classic Ivy way of like, finding, the positivity to take from those instances, but also just being like, hey, I'm here if you need a shoulder to cry on. I'm here if you need to talk about anything. And that would be like what you'd be like in game as well, like in voice chat. It was like we would just be having conversations, and then all of a sudden someone would start talking about something real, and then we're all just kind of like on autopilot, like playing Splatoon while we like work through these like serious life conditions or whatever. And those are just memories that I'm always going to hold really dearly. And I don't know, it really sucks when bad things happen to good people, but this was like truly one of the best people, and I'm really, really going to miss Ivy a lot.
Yeah. I was just, you got me thinking. I was like, yeah, I should check my DMs with Ivy. Most of our DMs are actually about Animal Crossing, because the first time we really started talking, I used to hold these fashion shows on my island. I would stream fashion shows, and she started to participate in them. It was just such a good way to just like creativity and like community across, not being able to be in person with people, and gave me a reason to play the game again too, because it was still new to her. She didn't play it like when it first launched. So that was just nice, because that's like what Animal Crossing was all about. And I was, especially with a game like Animal Crossing 2, I was just thinking to myself, like, that's so I could maybe I keep sending letters there, in Animal Crossing, just like for myself,
Yeah.
That's heavy.
I've found myself shooting her DMs every once in a while, like since I found out, just little I miss yous, or like I wish you could have seen this, or I hope you're doing okay, and stuff like that. Stuff like that. I'm not like a very spiritual person. I know Ivy was, and but it just personally, like it helps our kind of monkey brains to kind of continue to commune with our loved ones even after they're gone, right?
Absolutely.
Totally. I partly because I know she was a religious person, I've been thinking about her in a way that I don't often think about people who pass, and like having little conversations with her. Because I know she would say stuff like that. So about how, like, messages from beyond and stuff like that. So
she would tell me stuff like that all the time with Sasha when I was going through that,
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah.
It's especially difficult with, someone who absolutely wouldn't want us to be sad. And when someone like that comes into your life and like, of course you're going to be sad. It's normal. It's normal.
Mm-hmm.
Ivy, we love you. We miss you.
Yeah.
Love you, Ivy.
I know you don't want us to be sad, but like, too bad. Too bad. That's how much we care about you.
I don't know if you get Switch Headz in heaven, but we're telling you right now.
I think if I can just, if I can think back to whenever we first started playing with Ivy, I was going through a pretty difficult part of my life. Like I said at the top of the show, the intro, I was going through an injury that had debilitated me, and I couldn't walk for about 3 months. And this is the first time in my life that I'd dealt with anything like that, where I couldn't, walk down the hall to get a glass of water, help myself do so many normal things we take for granted. So I had a lot of extra time when this game launched, and I found myself occupying a lot of that time, not just playing the game, but sharing a lot of conversations, just sharing a lot of time together with Sarah. And I mean, she's the type of person who, like you said, is a friend who I guess it's a little bit different because we were only friends through this community. And so we never met in real life. So it was a little bit like having someone like, I don't know, like Cortana or someone who's like the best, but like the best person to talk to anything about, and who has just such an enlightening outlook to share about something you might be going through or something you could have seen that was funny, the good and the bad. And her perspective is something that will dearly be missed. And I'm trying to keep a smile on right now, but it's really, really hard. But I know she would want us to have a blast, and it's been lovely sharing these memories here with you guys. And so that's why I'm going to keep smiling to be strong for her, but also because I know that's what she would have wanted.
And also, I think we should say that, there's been an outpouring of people sharing their memories in our Discord. If you ever knew her, I really urge that you join the Discord, or at least just peruse the general channel from the past week. And over the past year, I didn't play as much Splatoon with Ivy. I think Ivy kind of joined like a professional Splatoon crew, and
we missed her, man,
because she was one of the best Splatoon players I'd ever met. So it was like, hell yeah, get your bag, but like of Splatoon bucks, I guess. But like her entire crew, like all came through in the Discord and joined, and they started leaving their memories as well. And that was a very touching thing to see. And I just want to thank everybody for sharing everything that they did in the Discord. I'm not going to call anybody's messages out right now because that's kind of a personal thing. But I it was really nice to see like how much a person can have an impact on all of these people, right? Without ever having met them in real life. Like you said, ABK, it is a really, truly special thing.
You mentioned it to me before. Is it okay to say this? I think, you mentioned, David, it's kind of, as tragic as all of this is, it is really special. It's a very special reminder of how great and tight-knit of a community that we have, that we're a part of, and that we've all built together here. Yeah, that I think that really, video games and the internet and whatever time that we live in, some of those things really don't matter when you have lovely friends around you or far away, but that you can connect with in silly ways like we do.
Well, this is another hard transition, but
yeah, sorry, I try to make that short.
No, you're great. I just mean like anything for going from this to the next is weird, but Ivy, we miss you. And we're going to take another break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about the games we've been playing recently. I got nothing to talk about, guys. I played Splatoon 3 this week, and that was it. And we talked enough.
Let's go.
You are backsliding. Back on the pony, Patrick.
Hit me up when you want to play anything, Patrick, because I'm back in it too.
Yeah, well, any mode, I'm down.
Point being, we already talked about Splatoon. I got nothing to add here in terms of the games we're playing, but I promise next week it will be something different.
Next week it's going to be the side order DLC. Right?
I wish. No, I wish. No.
Patrick, what's your favorite weapon to play in Splatoon multiplayer? Like, what do you like to play?
I like to play Salmon Run where their weapons are random.
I know. That's why I want you to.
Let's move on.
All right.
I'll go next. I've been playing a little bit of stuff. I hung out with Jordan this past week, IRL. He came over and we watched the debate together. Mm-hmm. And then we played some video games. Crazy debate, by the way. Did you guys see that? Holy fuck. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. Anyway, that was my favorite sentence. We played some Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which was a blast. We played online, and that was a ton of fun. So that game is still in rotation all these years later. That's why they keep doing updates for it, I guess. I can talk about this now because the game is out by the time that this episode comes out. But I have been playing a little bit of the Plucky Squire. Not enough to where I can talk about it in full detail. In fact, I'm sure Jordan will have a lot more to share about the Plucky Squire next week, but it is a wonderful game, very charming. Everything about it that you've been hearing about is totally true. Graphically, it's incredible. I can't wait to play more of that game when it releases. I played a little bit of the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection. That's one of the games that I got because I'm in a Steam family, so thanks, Jeremy. I'm not really a fighting game guy. I'm not a big Marvel versus Capcom guy, so I'm still kind of getting my feet wet a little bit with this series, but it is really nice to have Marvel versus Capcom 2 in a readily available, playable state in high definition, everything like that. Sadly, it doesn't seem that there is crossplay between the Switch version and the PC version, or any of the other console versions, which I think is a little bit of a missed opportunity. I know there is rollback netcode, which is really nice. But, the PC player count isn't super high. I think a lot of the people that are playing this game are playing it on Switch or maybe on PlayStation or something like that. But either way, I know all the hardcores are playing on PC, so I'm just going to get my ass whipped if I ever go online. But those are some pretty fun games. And then lastly, the game that's been taking up the majority of my time is Lorne's Lure. And this, I actually got the permission from the developer to talk about this game. I did get a code from the developer to talk about this game and stream it. It is technically still under embargo until it releases on the 20th. So if you're listening to this early, it's coming out on Friday of this week. But holy smokes, guys, Lorne's Lure, I think, is probably my favorite game of the year so far. I am completely sucked into this game. I'm loving it so much. If you're not familiar with it, I've talked about it on the show before. It's basically a first-person platformer game. It kind of reminds me of that one section in Half-Life 2 where you're like going on the metal girders like under the bridge, and it's got like, you're really high up and you have that really bad vertigo. It's kind of like if that was an entire game. Right. It's kind of like a climbing game, sort of. You play this android who's chasing a visual glitch around this mega structure. And just the style of the game is, you're ascending and descending and you're going through these enormous, huge open areas. And it's just got this real, like, gentle vibe to it, even though you've got a lot of like really enclosed places or really wide open spaces with like huge drops that can be really scary. The music is always really chill, and it's all about like exploration, and it's all about kind of these lonely vibes, so it's a very easy game to just like sit and get sucked into for hours at a time. And basically any free time that I have over the past like couple weeks, I've just been playing Lorne's Lure. I'm not all the way done with it yet. I think I'm like 13 hours into the game, and there are still 2 chapters left. So it's a pretty hefty game for an indie. I know it's a solo developer. He's been working on it for a really long time. This is definitely one of my favorite games I've played in a while. If you're a fan of like Metroid Prime or like the climbing in Zelda Breath of the Wild and stuff like that, I think you're really going to enjoy this game. I really recommend everybody check it out whenever it drops on Steam at the end of this week. What about you, Summer?
I also mostly played Splatoon 3 this week. Like I was even playing before the Splatfest because I was like, I want to play in the preview. Oh, I mean, I was playing last weekend too with the big, what do you call that?
Oh yeah, Big Run.
Big Run happened. God, I was playing Big Run and I was like, God, I forgot how much I love this infuriating mode. I got up to professional +3, which is, I guess, the highest I've ever gotten. Immediately felt as soon as Big Run was over. And like, cause it definitely felt like it was a lot kinder to us. Then I hosted a Mario Kart 8 tournament at my work this past Friday. Like we had a retreat and we were asked if we wanted to do, like small events. And I was like, if there's an interest for it, I could like do some kind of a video game tournament. And there was a lot of interest in it actually. So did that. And while I was talking, someone goes, "Oh, you sound like you should host a podcast." And I immediately go, "Yeah, catch Super Switch Headz every Wednesday at 11 a.m.
I do host a podcast.
And then like 3 people afterwards came up to me like with their Spotify open and they were like, "What episode should I start with?" And I was like, "Oh my God."
The newest one is what I always say.
Yeah. And then after that, though, we did play. People were like, "So do you have Smash?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got all the DLC. Let's play." So we just played Smash until it was like time to go home. It was basically like a free day. And
Nice.
then
cool.
I am still playing an infuriating amount of Fire Emblem 3 Houses. I say
Let's go.
infuriating because God, those paralogs on maddening are insane. And right now, yes, I am linking to my most recent AMV. I am being shameless right now. Go watch my AMVs on YouTube because the brain rot is so real. I go to bed like either playing the game or reading fan fiction from this game. Again, it's so over for me. Yep.
Merciless.
Yeah.
Respect.
What about you, ABK? What have you been playing this week?
Yeah, way too much Splatoon for sure. I did miss most of Big Run, but I played enough one night to get to the highest I've ever gotten, which is also Professional +3 Summer. So we got that.
Hey,
we got those
yeah.
promotions. Getting those promotions, baby. I played Abzu while I was injured all the way through. I started Dave the Diver. I'm kind of on an underwater games kick outside of Splatoon. It's the end of the summer and it's just kind of hitting me. I don't know. I like to play a puzzle game usually for like 10 minutes in the morning a lot of times. And right now I'm playing Peglin is my puzzle game. It's a lot of, it's a great way to get the day started. I gotta say.
Are you playing that on Switch? Because that just came out
am.
on Switch, right?
Yeah. I picked up that when it came out that day. And I started Nier Automata. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I also started Pepper Grinder. Shout out to Devolver Digital for like making or publishing amazing games. A bunch of their games just went on sale, so I picked up my friend Pedro, Pepper Grinder, and a few others. So, yeah, looking forward to diving into more Devolver games anytime they drop something.
Keeping the water theme going.
Nice.
That's also true.
Well, that is going to do it then for this episode on Splatoon 3. ABK, thank you so much for coming and talking with us. Really appreciate that.
Thanks so much for having me, man.
Thank you to milkyway.co for doing our website. Thank you to Corduroy for doing our music. If you're looking for me, Patrick, online, you can find me as PDYX.
You can find me at Weebwitched.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, ABK? Where can people find you online?
Yeah, stop on by to see me at howdyhat_77 on Instagram, and on your friends list, I believe I'm howdyhat69 on Discord. So you can find me there.
There you go. Definitely check out ABK. Also, you doing any more streams recently? I know you used to do some experimental music streams.
I'll let you guys know. That's something that's in the works, and I'm working on something kind of special. So
Very
thanks
cool.
thanks for asking, and that can be found over at, I'm going to make a new Discord for that, but it was Doper Winfrey for a while. You can go check out some
Very
really strange VODs at Doper Winfrey, twitch.tv. So.
Very good, very good. We'll check that out. If you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We have a website, switchheads.com, and we have a Discord, a Facebook group, and a Patreon. We'll have links to all 3 of those in the description of this episode. Whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on Apple or Spotify, definitely check out those links. We'd love it if you'd come to the Patreon, chuck in a buck. Thank you to all of our subscribers over there. And then, please join us over on Discord. It's the best community in the world. We wouldn't be having an episode like this if it wasn't for our Discord. We love you guys so much. So please join us over there, be a part of that community, and maybe you'll see what all the fuss is about here. But that's going to do it for this episode on the end of Splatoon 3. What an amazing series, and what an amazing friend we all made along the way. We're going to be back next week with another banger of an episode, so don't touch that dial. But in the meantime, gang, you guys know the drill. Stay safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. R.I.P. IV, we miss you. I'm going to continue to miss you for as long as I'm around. So you mean the world to me, and I hope you're doing well now, and we all hope the same. All right. We love you guys very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.